For thousands of years, the Gorgon Medusa has been framed as the ultimate nightmare, a snake-haired terror whose mere gaze turned ancient warriors into stone. But step inside her actual home, and you find a very different picture. She is a fussy, retired artist who spends her days wearing thick reading glasses, obsessively weaving geometric macramé tapestries. Running this quiet household is Alara, a blind 12-year-old human girl who navigates the world with a carved walking stick. The two operate in perfect, albeit cranky, harmony. Medusa handles the heavy lifting and produces masterful art, while Alara functions as her hyper-competent logistics manager, running errands and managing their inventory. This quiet domestic partnership completely flips our cultural script. The supposedly tragic monster is just a grumpy artisan, and the presumed helpless maiden is actually running the business. We see this dynamic tested when Alara makes her weekly supply run into the bustling markets of Athens. She navigates the chaotic streets entirely independently, relying on her sharp hearing and memory to dodge carts and merchants. 3 local thugs notice her carrying expensive threads and imported glass. They assume a blind girl carrying premium goods must be a soft target, an easy link to a wealthy, exploitable patron. They don't hesitate. As she turns down a quiet path, they grab her and throw her into the back of a rusted livestock wagon. To ensure she can't fight back, the men tie her ankles and bind her wrists with heavy knots, neutralizing any physical threat she might pose. A captive child, bound and outnumbered by brute force, seems entirely powerless. But escaping a trap rarely requires overpowering the people who set it. Inside the rallied wagon, Alara doesn't panic. She immediately uses her remaining senses to assess her confines, feeling the straw beneath her and counting the sounds of the city fading into the distance. Drawing on the intense finger dexterity she developed through years of weaving, she quietly works the ropes at her right wrist, loosening them just enough to reach a velvet pouch hidden in her tunic. This diagram shows her strategy. She drops a handful of aquamarine beads out of the wagon, leaving a physical coordinate system on the road. By counting 10 seconds between each drop, she turns random objects into a calculated breadcrumb trail leading to the hideout. Once they arrive at an abandoned barn, she deploys a secondary tactic. She weaponizes her captor's greed by inventing a labyrinthine story about her patron's wealthy compound, complete with fake guard rotations and fictional passwords, keeping the men busy for hours. Back on the island, Medusa realizes her assistant is missing. She sheds her quiet retirement and slips back into the role of a lethal predator, not out of bloodlust, but driven entirely by a fierce maternal need to protect her household. Following the imported beads, she easily locates the barn. She corners the thugs, drops her disguise, and instantly turns all 3 into stone, happily securing some fresh inventory for her lawn statue business. Alara survived relying on intellect, clever stalling tactics, and covert coordination. She proves that raw muscle is easily outmaneuvered when you have sharp wits. Across the sea in Crete, the same trade-off between power and perception is playing out inside the mountain walls of King Minos. Deep in the lower levels of this palace, 2 captive servant girls, Calla and Lena, have spent years navigating a world where the king treats executions like dinner theater. This diagram illustrates their covert network. By extinguishing specific candles in a high window, they send a silent signal to friends in the courtyards below. They also exploit blind spots, unlocking a vertical laundry chute to bypass heavily guarded checkpoints undetected. They even use the palace's mandated religious service as a shield. While hundreds of voices rise in a required hymn, the girls use the crowded room to orchestrate an escape plan right under the guards' noses. For marginalized figures, the very architecture and routines designed to keep them trapped can be reverse-engineered into a highly effective tactical network for survival. That network is put to the ultimate test when Lena accidentally spills wine on the king and is immediately sentenced to die in the infamous labyrinth. Thrust into the maze, Lena cowers as the legendary Minotaur approaches. 8 feet of muscle and shadow pace toward her, letting out a thunderous roar. But the reality is completely absurd. The beast is actually a vegan theater actor named Wally, fussing over his dressing gown and upset that his performance was interrupted. Wally survives the king's demands through covert stagecraft. He uses padded mannequins, carefully stitched seams, and copious amounts of sunberry jam to fake the horrific deaths the nobles expect to see from the viewing grates above. Instead of capturing Lena, Wally actively facilitates her escape. He guides her and her friends to a secret rear door, leading directly to a pier, where a ship waits to take them to freedom. By recognizing their shared status as outcasts, the captives manage to turn a presumed mythological predator into their most valuable ally. Across the sea, Medusa and Alara return to the peaceful, mundane routine of their stone cottage, arguing about tea blends and copper thread. The compassion of these supposed beasts stands in sharp contrast to the humans they encounter. The thugs in Athens see Alara as a payday. King Minos sees his subjects as disposable props for an afternoon's entertainment. These stories suggest that the label of monster often has more to do with who holds the power than who has the snakes or the horns. Survival doesn't belong to the loudest or the strongest. It belongs to those who look past society's labels, relying on hidden intellect, art, and each other to find a way out.
Read Monsters Maybe by Wilson H. Bard, available at Walmart and on Amazon. Or read it for free with Kindle Unlimited.